So Tna Impact took place in Manchester, England. The show starts with Dixieland in the ring. Dixie Carter, Magnus, Ethan Carter III, and Rockstar Dud. Dixie says that Montel Porter's plan to take her power away did not cause her to have insomnia. She says that losing control of the company is so minor that it's not even a second thought, and she credits that to Magnus. Dixie attempts to give Magnus the mic, but Ethan takes it and reminds her that his worth in Dixieland is equal to that of Magnus because he took out Kurt Angle. Dixie quickly dismisses Ethan and allows Magnus to take the mic. Magnus says that he is the first British world title holder and that he is thankful that he only has to come to Manchester once a year because the bum quotient is so high. He recalls Dixie seeing him in a magazine and signing him to a TNA contract. Magnus says that Montel Porter's position in the company is at the bottom of the totem pole, well beneath himself and Dixie. He says that Porter could never use his money to own him. Then, Montel Porter comes out, accompanied by Samoa Joe. Porter implies that since his money can't get to Magnus, he suggests that Magnus used his money to buy Dixie for purposes unrelated to wrestling. He acknowledges that Samoa Joe will meet Magnus at Lockdown for the world title. Then Gunner comes out with his world title briefcase and challenges Magnus to a title shot. Yet Gunner is willing to give him until next week to get ready. He says that the winner will defend against Joe at Lockdown, but Dixie interrupts and tells him that he will be putting up his world title shot briefcase in the match against Ethan on the show. However, Porter counters by informing Dixie that Ethan will be putting up his world tag team title shot briefcase in this match, which now has been given the gimmick of a ladder match, with the briefcases suspended above the ring. He continues by telling Ethan that if anyone from Dixieland tries to help him win unfairly, he'll do something about it. Solid segment with good heat on Magnus and Gunner coming off well. We continue to see the divide between Dixie and Ethan grow, and we'll see where this leads as far as Ethan either trying to prove his worth again to Dixie or possibly leaving Dixieland and either healing on his own or turning face. Yes, the ladder match is becoming too commonplace, just like the cage match, which isn't a positive, but in this case it was okay. So then we had a ladder match. Gunner versus Ethan Carter III. During the match, Ethan climbs the ladder in an attempt to retrieve the briefcases, but Gunner grabs him and delivers a powerbomb. Gunner goes up the ladder, but Magnus comes into the ring and pushes the ladder over, causing Gunner to bounce off the top rope and hit the mat. Magnus delivers repeated kicks to Gunner, but as Magnus and Ethan attempt a double team, James Storm comes running to the ring. He comes at Ethan and throws him over the top rope. Magnus tries to throw a blow, but Storm ducks and attempts to superkick. However, Magnus avoids getting decked and escapes under the bottom rope. Montel Porter comes back out and tells Magnus and Ethan that he's going to back up his words from earlier. Therefore, he makes the ladder match for both briefcases a tag team battle. So now we have a ladder match, Magnus and Ethan Carter III versus James Storm and Gunner. Solid match. The match ends with Ethan going up the ladder as Magnus keeps Storm and Gunner on the outside of the ring. Magnus pulls Ethan down and tells him to follow his orders. Magnus attempts to go up the ladder, but Ethan pulls him down. Ethan goes up again, and Magnus pulls him down again, telling him to listen. Storm comes back into the ring and throws punches at both men. He comes off the ropes and clotheslines Magnus over the top rope. Storm folds the ladder up and places it down on the mat. Gunner makes it back into the ring, and they hip toss Ethan onto the ladder. As Storm sets the ladder upright again, Gunner lifts Ethan up for the torture rack, but Magnus kicks Gunner, causing him to drop Ethan. Magnus tosses Gunner out of the ring, but Storm nails him and clotheslines him over the top rope again. Ethan charges Gunner, who is on the ring apron, but Gunner catches him with a Uranagi. As Storm runs Magnus into the ring post outside, Gunner comes off the top rope with a headbutt. He goes up the ladder and pulls down the wire connected to the chain link with the briefcases attached to it. He pulls off the briefcases. The winners of the match, James, Storm, and Gunner. Ethan continues to feel the disrespect from Magnus, and combined with the aforementioned dismissal from Dixie, how will Ethan respond to this? Storm and Gunner are eventually going to go, so since Gunner will be getting his title shot against Magnus next week, it appears that Storm will eventually try to take the World Tag Team title briefcase from Gunner, just to satisfy the feeling of taking something away from him. As I have said, I don't like the idea of title shot briefcases being raised to the same level as championships in terms of value. But for this match, as well as the Gunner Storm program, it serves the purpose. So then we see Mr. Anderson backstage. Anderson is asked about what the meaning of the coffin match is. He says that it has nothing to do with aces and eights or the title. Anderson says that it's about his wife and kids, something that Bully Ray is envious that he has. And he takes out his phone from his bag and shows a photo of his newly born twins to emphasize that point. So then we see the glorified jobbers, Zema Ion and Rockstar Dud backstage, and Dud is dividing the room with yellow tape to separate Dixie space from Porter space. Here is the short, painless interpretation. Mr. Duh bitches about Gunner winning the World Tag Team title briefcase, considering that he and Robbie E had an agreement with Ethan Carter III in which Ethan would not use his previously owned tag team title opportunity against them. Montel Porter appears and tells the Jobbers and Ion that they will face the American Wolves and a mystery partner in a match. So then we have a six-man tag team match. The Glorified Jobbers and Zema Ion versus the American Wolves and Samoa Joe. Solid match because of the performances of Joe, Davey Richards, and Eddie Edwards. The match ends with Robbie E and Mr. Duh whipping Richards into the ropes. Richards comes off the ropes and kicks Mr. Duh. He grabs Robbie E, sends him into Mr. Duh, and delivers a drop kick that sends both of them to the mat. Richards tags Joe, who comes to the ring and clotheslines Zema Ion and then follows that with an elbow before whipping him into the corner. Ion comes out from the corner and Joe executes a reverse atomic drop. He comes off the ropes and takes Ion down with a kick to the chest and then delivers a senton. Joe picks Ion up and gives him repeated knees to the chest. He whips Ion off the ropes, but Ion stops himself and gives Joe a knee to the midsection. Ion comes off the ropes and Joe hits him with a snap power slam. He goes for the pin, but he sees the Jobbers approaching and moves out of the way, causing them to land on Ion. Richards and Edwards come into the ring and throw Robbie E and Mr. Duh out. They both come off the ropes and hit the Jobbers with double suicide dives. Meanwhile, Joe delivers a Uranagi on Ion and then locks him in the rear naked choke. Ion taps. The winners of the match, the American Wolves and Samoa Joe. It would have been better if the American Wolves had the full attention on them in the standard tag team match. They could have faced local British wrestlers in a jobber match, and we could have seen more of what they can do. TNA has made a big deal about them, so they should have gotten the showcase that would have revealed why. We did see enough, though, to see why they will be the next World Tag Team Champions. So then we see Montel Porter, Dixie Carter, and Rockstar Dud in the divided room. Velvet Sky appears and makes a request to Dixie to cancel her match against Chris Sabin. Dixie tells her that because of Porter's thought process that wrestlers should wrestle, she has to go through with it. She leaves and Porter questions the male versus female aspect of the match. And after Dixie tells him to stay on his side of the room, don't cross that line, don't you cross that line, she informs him that she's just following his lead about wrestlers competing. Dixie asks that she wishes that she could issue that mandate to him. Porter states that his priority is to repair her damage to the company, not to wrestle. Dud tells Porter that he won't wrestle because he doesn't have it anymore. Porter decides to step across the yellow line and make a match between himself and Dud. So then we see Abyss, Joseph Park, no, Abyss, Joseph Park come to the ring. Park says that he hates the situation that he's in and he blames Eric Young. He calls out Young, and basically Young tells Park that Park told him to find his brother Abyss, and he did that. And Park tells Young that he doesn't know him, that he can't be Abyss anymore, that Young doesn't understand him, so he needs to leave and find someone who does. Yes, let Abyss disappear and allow Eric Young to move to his next program because this storyline doesn't need to progress any further as far as those two are concerned. Young doesn't necessarily need to be in a title hunt, but he needs a fresh restart from this. So then we see Christy Hemme backstage checking her luggage, and Sam Shaw appears. He helps her with her luggage and tells her that he's fine with keeping it business between them. He shakes her hand and slowly walks away as she just looks at him. Christy needs to show more emotion with this and let Shaw know how angry she is about what he's done. She should have told him not to touch her bag, to leave her alone, and when he started speaking, she should have told him not to talk to her and walk away, or just simply walk away. If she would show that, it would justify Shaw's building resentment toward her much more. So then we had Montel Porter versus Rockstar Dud. Montel Porter wins. What was the point of this other than a waste of time? An X Division match or a women's match could have filled this time. Now, Porter's finisher is this kick to the head called the drive-by, I believe. That's his finisher, a kick to the head. I mentioned that because when Jay Bradley was in TNA, a lot of people pissed all over his boomstick. They said that a clothesline as a finisher was ridiculous. But I haven't heard the same noise about this kick to the head by Porter being the same. So then we see Robert Roode angrily walking down a hallway backstage, pushing doors open and opening doors as he searches for Dixie Carter. So then we see a video segment featuring Jeff Hardy, Willow, a character that Hardy originated in an independent promotion called Omega that he and his brother Matt co-founded back in 1997. The video was interesting, but if TNA is going to do this, don't switch back and forth between Hardy and Willow the same way they did with Joseph Park and Abyss. Don't have Willow there for a period of time, then have Hardy show up for a week, and then switch back to Willow, and so on. So then we see Dixie Carter backstage on the phone in panic mode as she feels the pressure of Montel Porter. Roode comes through a door and Dixie quickly hangs up. He tells her that he was promised a world title shot for the jobs that he did on behalf of Magnus. And he wants the title shot. Dixie tells him that he had the chance to get that title shot by beating Samoa Joe in the number one contendership 1 contendership match last week, and that he's mad because he lost. Rude throws a garbage container and gets in Dixie's face, warning her that if he doesn't get his title shot, he will be someone that she doesn't want against her. So then we had Velvet Sky versus Chris Sabin. Note the TNA. Velvet Sky's only highlights are her little ass shake on one knee on the ring apron, and then her straddling the middle rope as she shakes her ass. You don't show a clip from what happened last week. You show her highlights. Because once she steps through the ropes completely, nothing else matters as far as she's concerned, at least anything relating to actual wrestling. As for this so-called match, Sabin berates Velvet. Velvet kicks his knee when she was supposed to kick him in the balls, prompting Sabin to question why she kicked his knee. Velvet kicks him in the balls, but Sabin shows her the cup that he pulled from within his gear. He turns and she low blows him. She gets on top of him and wails away with her barely touching pseudo blows. Then Alpha Female appears and pulls Velvet off him. Alpha whips Velvet off the ropes and gives her a boot to the face. She applies the full Nelson on Velvet and Sabin dances in the ring like an idiot. Alpha throws her down and Sabin quote unquote pins her, with Alpha delivering the 3 count. Sabin gets hoisted on her shoulders. Now, Alpha Female is one of the women that I have said that TNA needed to sign. She may not officially be signed to a contract as of now, but I think that will happen soon. Alpha came off awkward at times, particularly with the neck action. But the association, at least the perceived association with Sabin, is sickening because she doesn't need to be with him. She should have debuted in an angle that introduces her affiliation with Gail Kim and Lady Tapa, because that's the only logical path for her. However, it's good to see Alpha Female there just to see the potential. So then we see Bully Ray walking down the hallway backstage. He enters the male dressing room and goes through Mr. Anderson's bag. He looks at his passport and then he takes out Anderson's phone. Bully Ray calls Anderson's wife and tells her that he will be sending her husband home in a coffin and that she should tell the twins that Anderson won't be coming back. Brief but effective touch right before the match. So then we see Robert Roode backstage in a calmer mood. He says that he lost control and that he can't deal with what he's going through. Roode says that he has to reflect on what he's going to do. And then 2 members of Dixie's Goon Squad arrive because Dixie wants him out of the building. And he leaves with them. Now, many have hinted that this has signaled the start of a face turn for Roode. Roode should remain a heel. He is much more entertaining and effective as a heel, and he should stay that way. So then we had the main event. The coffin match. Bully Ray versus Mr. Anderson. Good match. The match ends with Bully Ray executing a superplex on Anderson. He puts Anderson in the coffin and grabs the lid, which is separate from this cheap-ass coffin. Bully Ray tries to hold the lid down, but Anderson's forearm prevents that. Bully Ray brings the lid down again, but Anderson grabs the lid and they start struggling with it. Bully Ray hits Anderson with the end of the lid. He grabs a chair and tries to hit Anderson, but Anderson responds with a shot to the groin. Anderson gets out of the coffin, but Bully Ray sends a shot to the midsection with the edge of the chair. He lifts Anderson up and power bombs him through the table. Bully Ray attempts to power drive Anderson inside the coffin, but Anderson escapes and delivers the mic check, causing Bully Ray to fall into the coffin. Anderson grabs the lid and holds it down, and that's it. The winner of the match, Mr. Anderson. There is no excuse for the poor quality of that coffin, but it didn't have a major effect on the match. Now it's time for Bully Ray to go back to being the badass that we know him to be because he is better in that mode. So then we see Dixie Carter and Montel Porter backstage. Dixie wants to purchase the recently acquired shares by Porter, but he rejects her and tells her that he's there to improve TNA. He proposes a lethal lockdown match at Lockdown, pitting his team against Dixieland. The winner controls the wrestling side of the company. They bicker. They shift the flowers back and forth across the dividing line. Show ends. For the record, a private company can buy and sell shares, but only among a selected number of individuals. In other words, a person outside of the circle could not even purchase one share. However, let's play along with the storyline. Why would Porter even allow Dixie the opportunity to have control of the wrestling side when he is practically in control of the company anyway? By the time Lockdown happens, he would have been with the company for not even a month and a half, and the power shift is already about to happen. 8 months. 8 months. I'm Tasmar 2002, and that's my Tna Impact Analysis for February 13th, 2014. If you're listening to me on YouTube, please leave your comments below. Click the like or dislike button. And if you subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. If you're listening to me on the Wrestling News Talk Facebook page, you can leave your comments below and click the like button if you like what I've been saying. If you have any questions or comments for me about TNA or wrestling in general, you can get at me on Twitter, Tasmark2002, TAZMARK 2002. And if your comments exceed the 140, get at me with an email. Tasmark2002 at gmail.com. And be sure to listen to the Tna Impact review that I do with Chuck P. live every Sunday morning at 11 o'clock Eastern Time on Chuck P's YouTube channel. And if you're unable to watch us live, you can always watch the archive as well as past Tna Impact reviews that we've done. And be sure to check out Chuck's other videos as well on his channel. Solid show. Solid show. 5 months ago, Dixie Carter turned heel. So many people said that it was the best thing that TNA could have done. And that she's so good at it. Now, most of those same people want Dixie Carter off the screen. They're saying the same thing that I had said since the beginning. She's terrible. Now we have this lethal lockdown match in which Dixie can lose complete control of the company if her team loses. If that happens, would it make sense to remove her from the creative process? Therefore, remove her from the screen? Yes. Will it happen? No. Robert Carter, Dixie's father and the owner of Panda Energy, TNA's parent company, has been reported as saying that Dixie will remain an on screen character no matter the circumstances. How deep does Daddy's word go in the creative process? For us fans, it's the rotten part of the piece of fruit that you have to eat around. Why eat it at all? TNA is the only tolerable piece of fruit in the mainstream wrestling bowl. I'm Tazmart 2002. Gone.